welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast, where we listen to people's fairy encounters. But take heed, we're not talking about winged Tinkerbells here. These are real fairies, real encounters that took people like you and I by surprise. Stay a while and hear their stories. My name is Jo Hickey Hall and I'm a folklore researcher. This podcast is of course free, but if you feel you'd like to support my research, you can do so for as little as £1 per month. There are alternative tiers with different benefits. Go to patreon.com/the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast. Thank you. Tonight's episode comes with a warning. This is by far the eeriest set of encounters that you'll have heard so far. This was actually one of my first interviews specifically for the podcast, and at the time, I have to say, I was pretty creeped out for quite a few days, so this content is potentially very affecting. If you're of a sensitive nature, this episode is not for you. And as always, of course, this podcast is not suitable for children. My guest was incredibly interesting to chat to. She is clearly open to these sorts of experiences because she's had many of them, but it's striking that so many of them took place in this one location where she lived for a period of time. An ancient wood in the north of the Netherlands. I hope you enjoy tonight's episode. If so, please tweet _remain_curious and share your thoughts. I'll be back at the end for a chat.
I am from Rotterdam, from origin, and we bought the house in the north of the Netherlands, an old Victorian house, beautiful house, but it needed a renovation. So we rented a little cottage. It was in the winter, and it was pretty cold. And because in summer there are a lot of tourists and visiting the foods and the small nice places there. But in winter, there's nobody. So we lived in the middle of the woods, and those woods are pretty old. It's the only oak forest what remains. It's about, I think, 2,000 years old. It is really old. Really, really, you can feel when you walk there. You can feel how old it is. So we lived there in pitch dark in the evening. And nobody around during the day. And I lived there for a year, I think, almost a year, because renovation took a long time. During the day, the weather was beautiful, a little bit of snow, and beautiful place to walk. My children were small at the time. Mm-hmm. I had a baby, and I had my cat, who always walked with us. And I had my son. I think he was 5 or 6 at that time. And you have there something that is called hollow roads. And a hollow road it's that old, so it became hollow. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
Hollow road. And the tree line was, I think, 2.5 meters up. And it's called a talud. And we were walking there, and the sun was shining. My mother was with us. And the road is pretty long. I don't know. You can, if you walk the whole road, it's an ancient road. I think maybe it is 2,000 years old. And I think it takes you an hour or an hour and a half to walk the whole road. And then you end up in the fields with the farms and everything. So we were walking there. And it was very quiet because there was nobody there. I was walking with my mother and my son. And I heard giggling. And, you know, the sound of leaves, you know, the crackling of leaves. And so I looked up at the talud, this high up. I was walking on the hollow road. I looked up, and I saw 3 figures. And they were small, like children like 10 years old, let's say. I couldn't see their faces because there were a lot of leaves, and they were running up the talud. They were running and giggling. And I was thinking from, my God, those children are alone here. My God, what are they doing here? They can get lost because it's pretty big there. You can get lost. I got lost there.
Yeah.
And they were giggling and running. And I saw they were wearing, it's a really funny color, green, I must say. Like moss,
Yeah.
And brownish. And they look really old-fashioned in a weird way. And they were running there, and they had high hats, really funny hats they had. And I never saw something like that before. And they were running and giggling. And I was walking on the road, and I thought, no, yeah, whatever. I mean, I cannot go climb up 3 meters up the talud. I have my baby and where are you going? And they were following me. They were following me and giggling. And so I told my mother, I said, Mom, did you see that? Yeah, she said, weird. I don't know what children do here in this area. And but I knew there was nobody living there in miles around, kilometers around, nobody. So we came to a crossing. It's called the Driesprong, 3 roads that come together. So, and there was a possibility for me to climb up. So I told my Mom, you keep the store, watch my children and my cat, and I climb up the talud. And they were still giggling, and they were running away from me.
You could still see them.
Yes, but it's so leafy there, and it's also pine. A lot of pine is there, so that is green. So I only see flashes. You know what I mean? If somebody is running through the trees, you can only see parts. And they were running, and so I was up the talud, and I was looking for them, and I heard the noise from the leaves and everything, and then. And there was an open spot. There was something, like a little valley, something like that.
Sorry, what was that? There was a...
No, valley.
Oh, a valley. Okay, so you saw a valley.
Okay, very small. And they just disappeared.
Wow.
They just, was very quiet again. No noises, nothing, no birds. And that's the funny thing. It's a big wood, but there are no birds there.
Oh.
No birds.
How interesting. That's very creepy, isn't it?
I had many encounters with, all weird stuff. But this feels for me alien. They don't think like a human. They are not human. They have a very different perception of good or evil. They are very, very different from us. This is what I feel. Their world is so different from our world. The way they think, the way they are, is very, very different from. And they don't feel evil; they feel alien. And I'm not scared. I'm not scared. No, they don't frighten me. No. But they're different. Don't expect the reaction a human being would give you. They're not human. They're not.
It sounds to me like they wanted you to see them. Like they were playing with you.
Yeah, because I was walking there and, my son was running and I was talking with my mother about, I don't know, whatever. And there was nobody around, so maybe, yeah. But they were giggling and running and I saw flashes of the head but I chased them for a bit, but they disappeared.
How many of them do you think there were?
3.
Right.
I saw 3.
And did you get a sense of whether they were as little boys or girls? Did you get a sense of that? Were they all dressed exactly the same?
Sort of. Not quite. I could only see the colors was more or less the same.
Yes.
More or less the same.
Yeah, and just very old-fashioned clothing.
Yeah, weird. I never saw it before. Really weird coat, with the, the suits where men get married with the bag with the sides thingies. I don't know what to call slipper, we call it. But if you have a wedding suit for a guy,
Okay. Yeah.
and at the back they have two different. You know what I mean?
The little ties at the back. A waistcoat.
Waistcoat, yes.
Okay, so they were wearing kind of waistcoats, and the hats. So they were high, and were they pointy?
No, not at all.
How would you describe the hats?
Old-fashioned, like the high hats they used to wear. They now they do it at funerals. And the traditional high hats,
Yes.
Top hats.
Top hats.
Top hat.
Yeah. And you never saw them again?
No, but I saw different stuff there.
Mm.
I never saw them again, but I had one. I always felt when I was in the house, we had the house was really small, and in the front we had a table and chairs, and we have the doors you can open to the garden. Not really a garden. Once you end up, it was only wood. So, and I always had a feeling that somebody was watching me, and if I have that feeling, believe me, that somebody is watching. And one night, my son was already sleeping because I'm always the last one who goes to bed. I close the doors and I check everything. So everybody was sleeping, and I was sitting downstairs. I went up, and there was a balustrade. I don't know, sort of balcony in the house. Balustrade.
Yeah, the balustrade. Yeah.
And I went up, and all the chairs. I just put all the chairs together under the table, and I went up the stairs, and I heard all the chairs moving and shuffling, and I came down and I looked, and I saw nothing was moving, but all the chairs were really not under the table anymore. So I went down. I am never afraid. I must say I'm never afraid, and I really have felt evil, believe me. So. And this is my power, because the moment you are afraid, you give them power.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I went downstairs and I said, "Hey, stop it!" And I put all the chairs under the table again. I went up, and I was shuffling, and the stairs were all over the place.
Did you ever ask, "Who are you and what do you want?"
Oh, you don't get an answer. Oh yeah, I asked from, "Hey, what's going on? Where are you?"
Yeah.
You got my attention. You got my attention. Come. But
because it sounds quite poltergeisty, doesn't it? That behaviour.
Yeah. But it happens only that day. After that, it didn't. I really had bad experiences with houses. Anyways, it's all about the same place now, and it's all very related. And I realized that later, not at the moment. I was just amazed. Not with the little guys. I thought little people, that must be the little people. And in Holland, it doesn't get any attention. Not many people are interested. The stories don't live under the people anymore. It's different. Anyways.
Really? Did you ever ask your neighbours if they'd seen anything in the forest? If you had any neighbours in...
I don't have neighbours in Norway. No, so neighbours. Nobody lived. No.
There was no community.
No, nothing. I just lived in a little cottage in the woods.
Yes. And do you remember what time of day it was when you went for the walk? Healing has helped me many times in my life when I'd reached a point where something needed to change. In 2005, I trained with Martin Brofman to learn the body mirror system of healing, which was life-changing for me. It's based on the idea that the parts of your body that don't work well reflect the parts of your life that don't work well, and about which you have tension in your consciousness. The understanding is that tension is stress, and stress causes symptoms. In a distance healing or in-person session, I move up the chakras, returning each one to wholeness using a colour map. During the process, I see images and situations, I hear words or receive impressions that tell me something about what caused the tension in that person's life. The feedback at the end of the session is a really big part of the healing. If you're interested in a chakra healing session, you can contact me at scarletofthefae@gmail.com.
I can tell you, I think it should be between 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock something, because we did it every day.
Okay. And what was the light like at that point?
In winter, it's always a little bit misty, a little bit mysterious, misty, and it's not on the road, but it's on the fields, because you cross the fields. There's a little mist, and probably sunny day, because in winter we have quite a few sunny days.
Yeah.
And a little bit windy. Yeah.
And I realised you were saying it was a hollow road, because when you were talking about the trees, I was thinking they were hollowed out, like hollow rot. But I realised, so you were walking on the hollow road. So is that where, because we have a lot of these where I'm from as well, where it's a really ancient road. So the track goes right down. You can see the roots of the trees. And then there's quite a big kind of hollowed out part where you look up onto where the base of the trees start. So you've kind of got it, so the road itself is hollowed out.
Yes. I think
see
it's a very old road, because on the other side of the highway there's an old Roman road. The stones are there still. Yeah. Roman road. Yes. So it's really, really old. I think 2,000 years old, maybe older. And it's really high. Talut is really going up to the tree line. Is really, it's 2.5 meters. So the road is hollow, 2.5 meters.
Yes.
Really hollow.
Yeah. At the time, did your son, did he notice the children?
No, not really. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know. No, not really. My mother did see them, but it's a long time ago. This was, I think, 25 years ago. Right. Yeah, 25 years. My son is now 31. Yeah, 25 years ago. So, but
pretty interesting.
The other thing I had there, because I have to bring my son to school every morning with the car, and there's not much traffic there because it's winter season, so there's not a lot of tourists. There's no tourists at all. So I was driving down the road, and I saw something. I don't know if you know that. If you know that in the UK, we call it witte wieven. It's called white wives. And I never saw something like that before, and I cannot explain it. You see, you can always say from those children were, they were dressing up or whatever. This thing I've seen I wasn't scared, but I was amazed. Oh my God, what is this? I was driving on the road, and there was little bushes on the side, and it's a small highway, it's the highway between a few villages. So, and there were a few like shrubberies. There were these shrubberies on the side of the road. And do you know where you put a kettle on the stove and you get a really white?
You mean steam? Steam?
The steam. Okay, the really white one, the dense one.
Yes.
So there was the same density in the fog. So it was a really white fog, and there were 3. They looked like witches, and they were quite tall. I think 2.5 meters. And they have the gnarly, the fingers with the hands with the really long fingers with the nails on it, and they have the noses and the funny witch face with the nose and the chin and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. There were 3 of them, and they were made out of fog, and they were moving around with the hands trying to get you. And I never saw something like that before.
Oh my goodness! As you passed in the car.
Yes.
Yes.
But I couldn't stop because I had to bring my children to school, my
Yes.
son to school. And I was late already, so I was watching it. And I thought, when I go back, I have to stop and see what it is. And they were like a really creepy dance. And they were moving all around. And you saw the arms and the fingers and the faces. They were grinning. And
Oh, my goodness.
I was in the Witte Wieven, I will text it, Witte Wieven. And I tried to find a picture of it, but there are no pictures of it.
No. And how close to the car did they get?
No, it was on the other side of the road. I mean, how much? Well, maybe 4 meters, something like that.
Yes, okay. So they were together on one side of the road. And were they kind of like reaching out to you in your car?
Well, I drive pretty fast, so that it wasn't the case. No, they were maybe, but I was just watching it and like, whoa, I have to watch the road, but but it was there. And if you go to the old stories in the Netherlands, you'll find them, Witte Wieven, that people encountered Witte Wieven. And they got into trouble, really. So, but I'll text and try to find a picture for you.
Okay.
And you can find this in the literature over old stories, Netherlands. But in the countryside, listen, we have now everywhere, we have electricity, the lights are up at night. But in those days, if you go like 100 years, maybe a little bit, 120 years, you had people with dog cars and with
horse and carts.
No, a little cart with it has wheels under it.
Oh, I see. With dogs pulling it.
Yeah, dogs pulling it.
Wow.
And vendors, it's called vendors. People who had a lot of needles and threads and matches, and they were going to the woods, to all the farmers selling their stuff. And they did it by foot. They walked the whole thing. So that was very common in the Netherlands, probably in the UK too. And they have to cross the woods at night. And from that time, you can find those stories of Witte Wieven, and they encountered little green men. And
so interesting. You said that the little people, maybe aged about 9 or 10, were they kind of quite skinny, or what was their body shape like? Was it just kind of average?
No, they were skinny. They were skinny and small.
Skinny and small.
Yeah, they were not.
Yeah. Did you see their footwear or anything like that?
No. Because I was walking on the road.
Sure, yeah.
And the leaves there are incredible. They reach your knee if you step in outside of the road.
Yes. Especially in an ancient woodland like that hasn't really been kind of walked in, especially in that part where it would be hard to climb up onto the
but because it's not somewhere you should walk.
No.
I mean, nobody walks on top of the talud because there are too many trees. How do you get stuck? You cannot walk there.
No.
So I was really amazed. But children do all kinds of stuff. But those weren't children, believe me. No.
Do you have any pictures, any photos from when you were there about the area you were in? Because I'd love to see if you have any of the road itself.
I can find them for you.
Oh, thank you.
I can find them for you. I'll look it up.
Yeah, thanks.
And we had another thing there. If you stand on the hollow road, you can, and it's night. And you look at one side of the road, you see nothing because it's dark and the road is for kilometers, for miles. It goes into the woods. You look at the other side, you see a small, like a tunnel, and the light, it looks like a tunnel, but it's the light from the road, the highway.
Yeah.
Is there. And not really a highway, but it's a road that has lightning. And I think it was like 11 o'clock and the weather was nice. I said to my husband, let's walk a little bit. And we went to the roads because you cannot walk in the forest. So we went to the roads. And we heard a noise crick, 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 crick. And but because if you look, you don't see anything. And I didn't bring a flashlight because, I know that road and I know where I'm walking. It was a little bit of moonlight. So, crick, 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 and it came closer and closer. So, and my husband says, shall we go back? I said, no, wait. So, and it came straight at us. So we went a little bit to the side of the road and there was somebody coming on a bike.
Okay.
No, on a bike. Crick, 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 crick. And he drove straight at us. So we jumped to the side and we saw, do you know those clippings from Victorian times, the black ones? They put it in a frame and they hang it up, only the silhouette.
Oh, yes. Cameo.
Cameo, yes, it's called cameo.
Yes.
So there was, chimney sweepers.
Yes.
Okay. So imagine a really old-fashioned bike, black, a chimney sweeper with a high hat.
Yes.
On a bicycle, coming my way, and he is flat like a paper clipping.
Wow. Yeah.
You cannot make that up.
So like 2-dimensional.
Yes, he was flat.
Wow. And your husband saw that too?
Yes, he saw it too. Yes.
So what was his reaction? What was your reaction?
Yeah, let's go.
Especially as it was coming straight for you.
Yes, so we jumped at the side and we could see him and I could see he was almost flat. And he was really, really going fast. But we could see him because there was the light from the road, so we could see him. And we heard the noise, click, click, click. And then I looked at my husband and I looked again and he was gone.
He was gone.
We still heard the noise, click, 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 but there was nowhere to be seen.
Cool. I would love to know if there are people that have lived before or since in that area that had similar experiences, because it sounds like a really pokey place there.
Oh, I have a very scary story for you. It's still all about where we live. This happened where we lived there. And there was a horse. That's a funny story. There was a horse and in the field there, and we always walked. And we stopped always by the horse and we say hi to the horse because I was with the children and my mother and the cat. And we say hi to the horse.
Of course.
That horse escaped every night.
Sorry, did you say escaped every night? Right, yeah.
Every night he escaped and he walked back to the village because he didn't want to be there.
Oh.
Anyways, I had a bike there and one day I forgot something to pick up from the shop because normally I go with my car, I do all the groceries and I come back and and I forgot something essential, so I had to go back to the village and it is only 10 minutes with a bicycle. So I think, well, it's nice weather and I take my son and it's better because that's a different road if you take the car. Anyways,
sure.
So I put my son on the bicycle and I start my way to the village. And but the bicycle path is next to the highway, and I thought maybe there's another road. So I was with my bicycle on the same road where the creepy bicycle thingy was, and I saw a little path. And I thought, well, maybe I should take this because it's the direction of the village. Maybe I take the path. Bad idea, but I did it anyway. A really small path. You can hardly. But I was already on it, and I thought, now it's the direction of the village. I get because I always have a sort of compass in my head, so I can figure out where I am, where I have to go. So, anyways, no birds, of course. That was the thing that always amazed me. No birds.
That is strange, very strange.
No birds, the whole wood, never found a bird there, and no birds. Anyways, I was sitting on my bicycle, and I think it was 4 o'clock, something like that. And I passed a little house. And it was almost built on the road. There was only maybe a meter left. The path was a meter, let's say. No, not even, maybe a little bit smaller. And the house was exactly on the road. Mm-hmm. And it was a very low house. The roof was made of reed. How do you call that?
Thatch.
It was a thatched roof. Yes.
Thatched roof.
And the walls, it was really low. There were small windows, and the roof started. I think the walls were a meter high, and then the roof started.
That is small. Like a tiny little shed, an outhouse or something. Small enough to be an outhouse.
No, in the Netherlands, if you go way back, houses were built like that because they were hollowed out, and so you had the depth in the house. Oh, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, it was not. It was a cottage. It was not really small, and I could see through the windows. Really old stuff was there, like the crockery was put in the windowsill. I could see really old, like 100 years old, maybe 150 years old. Okay, something like that. And there was a little wall, and the wall was only maybe 50 centimeters. And there were 3 chickens, no noise at all, just the chickens. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, wow, somebody lives here. And then I came through a splitting in the road. I could go to the left, I could go to the right. Mm-hmm. But for the village, I had to go straight ahead. So I have now the choice to go to the left or to go to the right. So I think, no, whatever, I take the right on. So I went. And I was, let's say, 15 minutes later. And it's starting to get dark. And to my amazement, I got back to the cottage.
Okay.
Yes.
I
thought so, wow. Oh, you don't wait. But I had my son with me, and it was getting dark and colder. And so I thought, well, maybe it's I give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just a round thing. So go back to the cottage, and now I go to the left.
Yeah.
Other way around, and it took me half an hour, and I was back by the cottage.
Wow. Oh my goodness, this is creepy.
I was panicking because it's getting really, really dark, and you
have your son. Yeah.
I had my son who was 6 years old, and he was, Mom, when are we going to do the shopping? So I end up, and I thought maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed a side road or something. So I go back to the right end. And I ended up with the cottage again. And there was no side road. So I took my bicycle. I turned it around when I was with the cottage. Yeah. And I think, whatever, I don't want to do that anymore. I could just go the road
just
back.
Go home.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was only like 10 minutes before I reached the cottage. So I think it just go that way. And but I had a really creepy feeling.
Yeah.
and that road was, when I came, it was only 10 minutes drive. I was driving for half an hour. And it seems like it wasn't going to end anywhere. So I was really panicking, and it was just really getting dark. And it took me, I think, how long did I? Maybe 30 minutes it took me. And I ended up in a cornfield. and you know where you have this village. There is a highway, not a highway, I don't know, a sort of highway, small highway, driving, crossing the village. It goes straight to the village. So if you end up on the other side, you have to cross that road.
I see.
So I ended up on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
But it's impossible. It is impossible. It just cannot.
Wow.
In a cornfield.
Mm.
And I drove in that cornfield and I was thinking, what the heck, where am I? Twilight Zone.
Yeah, totally. And there's nobody around either.
No, well, there was not a really a road, but you know, the tractors are driving there. Okay, so it was a little bit flat on the side. So, and it took me only 3 minutes before I reached the village. Mm. And then I saw what part of the village I ended up in. Mm-hmm. And that was the other side of the road.
That's so bizarre. And did you ever try and go up that path again?
Oh, yes, because I did my shopping, I went back. And I didn't want to bother with that road again. So no. I took the highway. Yeah. The next day I took my bicycle and I went to look for that. The
house.
Not the sideway where it was not there anymore. There wasn't anything.
Goodness me.
It was gone.
It would be really interesting to get a very old map of that area and just see whether there was originally a footpath and maybe a cottage there at any point. I mean, I don't know whether...
No, there wouldn't be any map of that. I'm sure of that.
Maybe what you were seeing was something that was there some hundreds of years ago. I wonder if there were really old maps that show that at some point there was something there, but not anymore. And maybe you went into some kind of time slip and we're seeing, I mean, it happens quite a lot. There's loads of cases of time slips. And it sounds like, I mean, even the guy on the bike, you saw someone that looked like he was from another era. Yeah. That also could be a time slip because people describe hearing, seeing, smelling, but it's a weird two-dimensional experience. It's like sometimes the colours are slightly off.
The guy on the bicycle was odd, was weird, was off. The cottage was real. That was very real.
Yeah.
I ended up in a different realm.
Yeah.
It was not time slip. No. I'm always very, very afraid of that. When I'm alone on the road and there's a lot of mist, I'm really scared to go into the mist because I'm weird. I always have weird things.
You sound very brave though. I mean, for most people, I think, they would run a mile and not want to explore any further, but I respect the fact that you are curious. And
I'm very curious. I always want to know why, how, what, when.
Yeah. That's great. I really admire that. And sounds like you've had some amazing adventures, but that sounds like a really, really odd, almost like a haunted wood. And particularly that the birds don't even want to be there. I think that kind of speaks volumes, doesn't it, really?
That was the first thing when I lived there for 2 years, I think. And that was because I lived in Rotterdam and we had a company and we had a project in the north of the Netherlands. So, and that is 3-hour drive. So I rented a cottage and, my children didn't have to go to school at the time. So that was easy for me.
Yeah.
In the weekend, I go back to Rotterdam, and during the week, my husband went to his work, and they were small, so we were walking in the woods, we were playing there, and it's better than the city. So that's the reason I lived there for so long. And that was the first thing that I noticed when I came there, the eerie. It was not really eerie; it was old. Do you know the feeling when something is really old? That feeling, and the totally absence of birds.
Yeah.
No birds at all, no animals at all, nothing.
So strange, because I mean, I've spoken to people before and they've said that when they have been pixie led, perhaps they've been in a wood and I don't know if you've heard the description of being pixie led, but it's where somebody loses track of where they are.
I know. Yeah.
So, but what they say is that while they are in that place, wherever it is, the birds go silent. There's no bird song, and that's something that they describe quite often.
Yeah, but that's for the whole. Yes, I read a bit about it because I'm curious. Because I like history and all that kind of stuff. I visit old buildings but yeah, I think I ended up somewhere where I shouldn't be. And I don't even think I was led or that it was on purpose, or I just thought there was maybe at that time there was the conditions for an opening and I just took it because it was there.
Yeah.
More like that.
Yeah. But this place, I'm just wondering whether that in itself is just
old. Very old.
Extremely old, and maybe some sort of portal. Maybe the whole place is some kind of portal.
Yeah. I think it's something like that.
Yeah. Do you know if the house you lived in is still there?
Yes, it was part of the cottages they rented out in summer for the tourists.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was not the only cottage, but there were maybe 10 or something like that. Nobody is there.
Of course. Would you ever go back there?
Oh, I've been back. I've been back, and I was always looking for if I could see that road. With my experience with the bicycle. No, I never saw that road again, and I went back.
It's been so lovely to talk. Really great.
It was nice talking to you too. Contact. I will send you some pictures and with the river and
cool.
The houses and everything, so you have a little bit of documentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Time to renovate, transmutate. Time to renovate.
Okay, you're still here then? How are you doing? There was a lot to take in this episode, and as our guest said herself, her experiences were very reminiscent of the classic TV series The Twilight Zone. I think it's fair to say that not everyone would cope with living in the sort of place our guest lived. In the circumstances, she was extremely brave and took a no-nonsense approach with a good dash of humour in response to these encounters, which I find very admirable. But they are certainly what I describe as pokey. I'm keen to know what might cause such a gathering of encounters in one place. There are other well-known locations that seem to attract a multitude of strange happenings. Skinwalker Ranch is a well-known site for paranormal activity. In the case of tonight's episode, we know that it was an ancient wood with few residents, only tourists in the summer. So for a lot of the time the place is left to itself, left to nature. The 3 children in the forest sound similar to some other fairy sightings. Their green, moss-coloured, nature-coloured outfits and the giggling, that sort of mischievous behaviour, is synonymous with fairies. I wonder if they were attracted by our guest's baby and child being present, or perhaps they were drawn to our guest herself. They certainly sound as if they were engaging in some way with her, and they succeeded in getting her attention. It's interesting that they appear in archetypal clothing. Some people suggest that these beings present to us what we expect to see, but I'm not sure. Another interesting point is the lack of birdsong. I've spoken with people who have had what they describe as fairy experiences or being pixie-led, and it's something which I've heard a number of times now. It appears that sometimes we can step out of normal reality, through a portal, to a twilight world. Our guest's point of view is that she felt as if she ended up somewhere that she shouldn't be, in a different realm, that there were the conditions for this to happen, and she simply stepped through. There's so much to learn, but the more we hear from each other about these encounters, the more a picture begins to form about this other world, which appears to exist parallel to our own, and which we sometimes experience for unknown reasons. The last story about the eternal bike ride did sound as if it took in some sort of time slip experience. There are many interesting cases of time slips that have been reported over the years. The most famous one took place in the grounds of the Palace of Versailles, just outside Paris, in 1901. It's known as the Moberly-Jourdain incident. There have also been a number of time slip experiences reported in Liverpool, England, notably in Bold Street, a road in a busy town centre. The story of the flat silhouette man on the bike is also very eerie. The fact that our guest only saw him in 2D is potentially another similarity with reported time slip experiences. In the Moberly-Jourdain incident, the women happen upon a cottage in the grounds of the palace and describe it looking as if it were part of a tableau, flat and lifeless, like wood worked in tapestry. I've provided links to these examples in the show notes at scarletofthefae.com, along with images of the hollow roads and some other images. If you've seen anything similar to any of these, I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch at scarletofthefae@gmail.com or tweet _remain_curious. If you're feeling a bit creeped out after hearing these stories, I recommend downloading a grounding visualization meditation of some kind. This will aid the sense of otherworldliness that can sometimes seep in while you're listening to such tales. Or maybe you're the sort that will enjoy taking that sense of the Twilight world into your dreams. Whatever you feel, know that we are exploring together. And always remain curious.